Well, good evening, everyone. I appreciate you being here. At this time, I'll call the Board of Adjustments and Appeals meeting for August 29th to order. At this time, I'll ask that you please join me as we say pledge allegiance to the flag.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right. May we please have a roll call?
Chairman Taylor.
Here.
Vice Chairman Shahayam.
Here.
Member Smith Rodriguez.
Here.
Member Johnson. Alternate Member Kilpatrick.
Here.
All right. We do have enough for business today. And first order we look at, we're going to go over approval of minutes for the July 25th, 2018 minutes. And we do have a correction to be made. And that correction is there were only 4 people here, not 5 that are listed on the minutes. Mr. Kirkpatrick was not here at that meeting, but he didn't vote, so it was okay. Are there any other corrections that anyone notices on the minutes to be made? None?
No.
All right. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Motion approved and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Thank you. At this time, we are going to, since we have one position open and we have a new member to be sworn in, we're going to invite Counselor to bring up our new member and introduce, or go down and introduce our new member and swear in officially.
Good evening. I'd like to invite you, Mr. Ortiz, up to the podium here to be sworn in as a new alternate member. If you would place your hand on the Bible. I state your name.
Felix A. Ortiz.
Do solemnly swear.
Do solemnly swear.
That I will support.
That I will support.
Protect and defend.
Protect and defend.
The Constitution.
The Constitution.
And government.
And the government.
Of the United States.
Of the United States.
And the state of Florida.
And the state of Florida.
Against all enemies.
Against all enemies.
Domestic or foreign.
Domestic or foreign.
And that I will bear.
And that I will bear.
True faith.
Through faith.
Loyalty and allegiance.
Loyalty and allegiance.
To the same.
To the same.
And that I am entitled.
And that I'm entitled.
To hold office.
To hold office.
Under the Constitution.
Under the Constitution.
That I will faithfully perform.
That I will faithfully perform.
All of the duties.
All of the duties.
Of the office.
Of the office.
Of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
Of the Board of Adjustments and Appeals.
Of the City of Titusville.
Of the City of Titusville.
On which I am about to enter.
Which I am about to enter.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you so much and congratulations. You may
Thank you so
take a
much.
seat up on the dais and you will perform as an alternate member this evening. There's one empty seat, 2 over there. Computer set up.
Welcome.
Looking forward to working with you. Looking forward to maybe working with you.
Yes, thank you. All persons who anticipate speaking on any public hearing item must fill out an oath card to be heard on that agenda item and sign the oath contained thereon. These cards are located on the table near the entrance to the chamber and may be obtained from the recording secretary. This meeting will be conducted in accordance with procedures adopted in Resolution number 24-1997. Those speaking in favor of a request will be heard first. Those opposed will be heard second, and those who wish to make a public comment on the item will speak third. The applicant may make a brief rebuttal if necessary, A representative from either side, for or against, may cross-examine a witness. Anyone who speaks is considered a witness. If you have photographs, sketches, or documents that you desire for the commission to consider, they must be submitted into evidence and be retained by the city. If you still have some that haven't been submitted, please submit them at this time to the recording secretary. First up, staff. Excuse me. Okay, so everybody understand that? If you wish to speak tonight, you fill out one of the oath cards and you turn them in to the recording secretary first before we open the agenda, okay? All right, heads up. All right, staff, has the item been properly advertised for tonight?
All items have been advertised properly, yes.
Very good, thank you. Next, are there any members here that have spoken to the public or been to the site to do a personal visit?
No?
All right, seeing none, we will move on then. We good okay? Okay. All right, we have no consent agenda, we have no old business, and we have 2 new businesses. I think they're side by side, so we'll get started with variance number 4-2018, which is lots 1 through 7, excuse me, block 62, revisited plat of Indian River City. And you gonna kind of combine this as one topic, or do we have to discuss them individually?
We wanted to suggest, Mr. Chairman, that to reverse the agenda order, to hear variance number 6 first. There is a reason before this.
Okay.
And if the applicant concurs, the decisions based on that variance will determine whether variance number 4 is even needed.
Oh, okay, so
I would ask the applicant if they're willing to allow that reordering, but that, to us, based on discussions with the applicant, would be the most logical course of action.
Yes,
Very good, sir.
I'm Lloyd Ward. I'm the applicant on both, and yes, we would like to order. I was yelling.
Yes, we would like to order reverse because if 6 is granted, 4 won't be necessary
thank you very
and
much,
would be
sir.
inappropriate. Thank you.
All right. All right, we've had a request to, can we have a motion from the board to change up the order?
Move to change up the order.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Shahayab?
Yes.
Member Smith Rodriguez?
Yes.
Alderman Kilpatrick?
Yes.
Alternate Member Ortiz?
Yes.
Very well, then we will move to number 3 on our agenda item, which is variance 6-2018. Staff, please enlighten us.
This is one variance application with 2 requests. Variance number 6-2018 for lots 1 through 7, block 62 of the revised plat of Indian River City. As I go through the report, which I will go through and try, I don't normally do this, I read everything in there, but I'm going to try and highlight the main points in there, but I will have to read certain paragraphs in there. This is a rather unusual request, but as you've known in the past few meetings, you get the most unusual questions here. So the applicant, Mr. Lois Ward, is requesting a variance to Section 28-5 of the code to allow a building permit for a lot without frontage on an improved public right-of-way, and a second building for a new lot to be created through the city's lot split process without frontage on an improved public right-of-way. I'll describe what I mean in a moment as I go through this. On page 25 of your packet starts the first page of the staff's report. So again, the request is to sections 28-5B and also to another section 30-133B to allow a building permit for a house on a lot without a street, basically. The lots, again, are located in the revised plat of Indian River City. That legal description I've already stated. Future land use of the property is considered low-density residential, which allows a maximum density of 5 units per acre. The zoning of the property is single-family medium density, which is R1B. The surrounding zoning on the north, south, east, and west are also the same zoning, R1B, single family. Uses. Currently there are two parcels. The first parcel is addressed 3945 Alpine Lane and fronts onto Alpine Lane, which is a public right-of-way with an improved street. The second parcel is vacant without an address, and it fronts onto Parker Drive, which is a public right-of-way without an improved street. Sections 28-5B and Section 30-133 frontage and Section 37-1 definitions of right-of-way and streets require property frontage on an improved street, not an unimproved right-of-way. On page 26, I tried to illustrate what was being requested here in the graphics and the tables here. So the first table is called lot characteristics, and I tried to describe the lot characteristics of the existing parcels, which I just already mentioned, which is the one that has the house with an address on Alpine Lane, 3945 Alpine Lane. The lot is about 26,000 square feet, and it encompasses lots 1 through 4 of that plat. The vacant parcel, which fronts onto Parker Drive, again, which is a public right-of-way without a street, is about 19,500 square feet and encompasses lots 5 through 7 of that plat. And you can see that in the illustration in Figure 1. Further down on that page, you'll see a second table, and I've described it as proposed parcels subject to lot split approval. So even with this, if the variances are approved, they would have to go through a separate process, as an administrative process, to split the property, to create the new lot. So in this table, I've described, again, the existing parcel, 3945 Alpine Lane, which is proposed to be reduced in size to 11,000 roughly square feet. And it will encompass only lots 1 through 2 of that plat. Tract A, which you see illustrated in Figure 2, is the brand new parcel. And that will be about 19,000 plus square feet with access onto Alpine Lane, or I believe in this particular case, will be fronting onto Parker Drive, which does not have the improved street. And that will include lots 3 through 4 and a portion of lot 5. Tract B, which you see illustrated there, is really the original parcel that fronts onto Parker Drive, but it's reduced in size, so it'll be about 25,000 square feet. It'll include half of lot 5 and all of lots 6 and 7. I hope that was clear. That's what's being requested here. So if you see, they're requesting that a building permit to be allowed onto a parcel that currently exists, that's Tract B, which currently fronts onto a road onto a public right-of-way without a street. And then also ask for a variance to allow a new parcel, which currently does not exist, to also front onto a public right-of-way without a street. This all started because there was a request to have a building permit to put a single-family home on the existing parcel, and it was denied by fact because it was not fronting on a improved street. On page 27 of your packet, I'm just going to read through those criteria. I won't do it again if the next variance application is brought up. These are the powers of the Board of Adjustment in reviewing every variance request, and you should consider the variance request individually, separately. So if there's a request to allow the original parcel, Tract B, and then you would consider the request separately for the creation to have that new parcel, Tract A, to also have the same conditions as Tract B. So the criteria that you should consider, that there are special conditions and circumstances which exist on the property that are peculiar to that land, structure, or building involved, and which are not applicable to other land, structures, or buildings in the same zoning. That there are special conditions and circumstances that do not result from the actions of the applicant. Granting the variance requested will not confer upon the applicant any special privilege that is denied by the ordinance to other lands, buildings, or structures in the same zoning district. The literal interpretation of the provision of the ordinance would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties in the same zoning district under the terms of the ordinance. The variance granted is the minimum variance that will make possible the reasonable use of the land, building, or structure. The granting of the variance will preserve the spirit of the ordinance and remain in harmony with its general purpose and intent. In granting the variance, the public safety and welfare must be assured. In no case shall the granting of variance result in a change of use, which would not be permitted in that zoning. That's not an issue here. On that same page, on page 27 of your packet, down on the bottom, I started with the analysis. And I'll read through this, but I won't read every line. The city denied a building permit application for a vacant parcel located on Parker Drive due to the lack of an improved road. The applicant requests a variance to allow a permit to be issued for a building located on that public right-of-way without a road. The applicant also requests a variance to allow a new lot be created without frontage that had the same conditions, basically, as the existing parcel. The applicant is the owner of both properties located at 3945 and the existing parcel. The existing parcel configuration is illustrated in Figure 3, if you see there on that page. The staff cannot support the variance request to the existing parcel. Public Works does not support the request, and that this area is not a stabilized, unpaved roadway and will require upkeep and improvement to be used as a service roadway for garbage operations. Currently, the area is a two-wheel path that is primarily unmaintained. The concern is that issuing any permits on a dirt path would require the city to accept and maintain the area, which cannot operate as a road in the current condition. And this is from an email that was provided to us by the Public Works Director. By granting access onto a two-wheel dirt path, the current condition has no directional flow for traffic, no signs to regulate entry onto the abutting streets, no room for two vehicles to pass in opposite directions, clear path recovering areas for both lanes, etc. These items will have to be addressed to avoid unsafe conditions when being used as a roadway. Again, quote from the email from the Public Works Director. The staff is also concerned that the request for the new parcel now, is an owner-created hardship. The applicant's new parcel request is illustrated in Figure 4. That didn't come out right. They are not actually proposing a flag lot in this case. They're actually proposing that the Tract A, the new parcel, will also have the same conditions as Tract B, a parcel fronting onto a public right-of-way without a street. If the variance for the new parcel, Tract A, is denied, then the applicant could ask for a separate variance to allow a flag lot. That would be a separate issue, and that would have to be applied separately. With a stem through the property located at 3945 Alpine Lane. So what I've shown here is an illustration of what could be, but it's not being requested tonight. Being requested with this particular application, I should say. A variance to the 1 acre minimum for a flag lot would be required with that separate application. Again, that's not being requested tonight. A flag lot is not being requested with this application. So going to staff's recommendation. For the existing parcel, the staff recommends denial of the variance to allow the existing parcel to front on an unimproved public right-of-way to allow a building permit. Approval of the variance will provide access to the vacant parcel on Parker Drive. However, this area is not stabilized, unpaved road, and will require upkeep and improvement to be used as a service roadway for garbage operations. Currently, the area is a two-wheel path that is primarily unmaintained. You can see in that figure there, number 6, that's the condition. That's looking eastward from Alpine Lane. And you can see that the road, the public right-of-way, does not have an improved constructed street. The new parcel, the staff recommends denial of this variance to allow a new parcel to be created with frontage on an unimproved public right-of-way. The conditions and circumstances related to this parcel are owner-created. You'll see on page 29 of your packet a illustration that was provided to us by the applicant that illustrates the general location of the building pads for the new buildings on the new parcels if these variances are approved, provided also that they get an administratively approved lot split. And you can see, too, in the aerial there that was provided on page 29 of your packet, Parker Drive, and there's it looks like a dirt path going through there, or a two-wheel path. Page 30 of your packet is the zoning map, and you can see again the properties and the surrounding zoning are R1B. Page 31 is the applicant's application. In the narrative on the bottom of that page, 31, you'll see that the variance is needed, as was stated by the applicant, is needed to build 2 homes on the vacant portion of the subject property. City staff has determined that Section 28-5B means that a public street must be paved to allow construction of a dwelling. That is correct. On page 34 of your packet, you'll see some more explanation from the applicant addressing some of the variance hardship criteria in the application. I won't go through that. I'll allow the applicant to describe that. On page 36 of your packet, you'll see a printout of the email that was provided to us by the Public Works Director. And again, on page 37, a second email from the Public Works Director. That's all the evidence that I have at this point. I'll try and answer any questions you have.
Brad, is this wording correctly on page 36? The first sentence, the Public Works does not concur with staff-supported recommendation? Am I reading this wrong? What?
Correct. Our original recommendation to the various departments in review of this was that we concurred, we thought that the Community Development Department and the planning staff supported a variance request for the original parcel.
Uh-huh.
But not for the new parcel, because we believe that that was a hardship created by the owner. When we passed that draft recommendation to the various departments, this is the response received by the Public Works Director. And since we have an objection from one department, we were unable to make that kind of recommendation. So officially, the recommendation to the Board of Adjustment is denial on both requests.
Okay, so double negative, all right.
Brad, I don't see anything from the utility department. Is there anything from the utilities?
The utility department, we didn't believe it was necessary to provide their information or evidence in this particular application. If it, based on the results of this application, that might be relevant in the next application, if it's necessary. But to answer your question, what we received from the from the Water Resources Department was that there are significant utility facilities in that public right-of-way.
Yeah.
And you could probably see some evidence of that in the image that I included in the last page of the staff report on page 28 of your packet. And you can see that there are manholes there in the road, and they continue through that public right-of-way.
So in the next package or the next variance, the utility department chimed in?
Yeah, it would become relevant there because the request would encompass the right-of-way itself. And so that's why it would become relevant. In this particular case, we didn't feel it was relevant.
Well, to me, it is. It's a problem because, you know, you have allowing them to build on a dirt road, basically, and there's public utilities there, so the roadway has to be improved somehow, and they should have said something.
The city has no plans to construct a road in this public right-of-way. It is not in the pipeline for planning. We have several roads that are like this, and the city has certain limited funds, and so this particular segment is not a priority, according to the Public Works Department.
The board members may find information about the utility response regarding the ability to vacate Parker Drive on page 13 of the agenda packet for tonight. And if the members would like to review that information before proceeding, I think that would be appropriate for them to have that opportunity to look at that at this time.
Brad, is Capron paved all the way to the very end, at the other end?
On the east side,
Correct. Yes, the east side.
I believe it is. I'm going to look at an aerial and confirm for you.
All the way down. All the way down? It is. All the way down. That ends in Lucida.
Are there any other questions of staff before?
Yes, sir. It is paved all the way down to the end of Capron, to Parker.
Where it does come to Parker, okay, thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a possibility for the residents to pay for their own road and make it a true private road where the city can still have access to its utilities that are there?
That is a possibility. It would have to meet city standards.
What's the right-of-way requirement, the frontage on a right-of-way for this zoning?
In this zoning district, it's 75 feet width.
75. And the length of that, the lot, the first lot on, what road is this? Alpine Road? What's the length of the lot on Alpine Road?
If you give me a moment, I can measure that.
Yeah,
I can
thank
give you
you.
an estimate.
Thank you, yeah.
Like 130.
130 feet?
If I can read it.
It's 130 feet, according to a survey that we have.
And is it closer to the road to the east than to the west to get to the slot, or?
See the one parcel that's fronting on
Yeah.
Parker? So you're asking is, what's the different distance between it and Capron
Yeah.
versus Alpine?
Alpine? Because there might be a solution to this, and I don't know.
According to the survey that was provided to us, it looks like it's, about 200 feet to Capron and 200 feet to Alpine.
It's almost the same distance. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? All right, seeing none. At this time, we'll open it up for the public hearing. Would the applicant like to speak first?
Yes, sir.
And we do have a card confirmed?
Yes, sir, we do.
All right. Give your name and address for the record, please, sir.
My name is Lois Ward. I'm in the process of moving from 528 Poinsettia to 2520 Frontier, both in Titus. So the post office is still confused, too. I have some handouts I'd like to give to each one of the board members, if you would. First, I'd like you to look at the, draw your attention to the photograph on the first page, and like to, a lot of confusion and misstatements going on. I'd like to try to clarify. Just for orientation purposes, let me preface that first. I'm here on behalf of the property owner, Mr. Stephen L. Johnson. He resides at 430 Oleander Place. And if you look toward the lower left-hand side of the sketch, you'll see it noted existing residence, 430 Oleander Place. That lot's about 130 foot deep by about 160 foot east-west. And he has a house and a workshop on that lot that's existing. And that is one tax parcel. The property noted as 3945 Alpine Lane. Actually, that tax parcel, and let's please be real careful with the terminology because words mean different things. That is a tax parcel. It comprises of 4 platted lots that have existed since 1924. And that's very significant when you interpret the code correctly. This is not a parcel or a tax parcel. It's not the same as a lot. Platted lots have different rights than parcels. And then Mr. Johnson also owns a separate tax parcel, which is comprised of lots 5, 6, and 7. Our request tonight regarding the variance number 6 is to allow construction of a home on the existing tax parcel comprising of 3 lots, 5, 6, and 7, and also to build another residence on lots 3 and 4, combine lots 3 and 4, and that would be a separate tax parcel, but they are 2 lots. Mr. Johnson, the health is failing, and his 2 sons desire to build their homes on Parker Drive to be near and care for their father. Trust me, we have worked long and hard with staff to equitably resolve this matter to no avail. Following is, if you look to page 3, first of all, is there any questions regarding the orientation and whatnot of the photographs? I need to have the facts. Highlighted in blue on that picture are the existing roads that have been paved by the city of Titusville. This property was annexed to the city. It was in River City. It was annexed in 1964. Virtually every street except Coquina and Highway 50 was a dirt street at the time. And I take great exception to staff continually trying to refer to this as a two-wheel path. It's a stabilized roadway. Been used for years, over 50. Sorry, I'll try to calm down. On page 3 is a summary of, very brief summary of what we've done so far. First thing that happened around December last year is one of Mr. Johnson's sons went down to City Hall to try to get a building permit and said it had to be on a paved road, go away. And they also told him that to get a building permit, he would have to pave the road to city standards. City standards, current city standards are a 22-foot pavement, 2-foot curb and gutter on each side, sidewalks on each side, full drainage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The cost of that would be about 3 or 4 times the cost of the man's house. It's ridiculous, especially in the event that the fact that the city has paved several other roads, and there has been some cost sharing, there's some outright grants, there's been various processes. And just because the city doesn't have it on their list, it's not a good reason to deny a man's use of his property. I then, after Mr. Johnson came to me, and I had a meeting with the city attorney and the community development director because I thought they were misinterpreting code and still believe that to this day. And I'll explain later. At that meeting, Ms. Bisaka suggested that we vacate Park Drive and create 2 flag lots, accessing the very end of Alpine. Although that wasn't ideal and what our client really wanted to do, I met with my client and encouraged him, staff to support that, we would follow that route. So we went along, filed for an application to a vacation and another application for a variance to the flag lot size, which have been required, as we've been recommended to do. Great expense, I might say, to my client. The result of that was we got a recommendation to deny the vacation, a recommendation to deny the right-of-way vacation and the variance, after having been told that's what we should do. I then went to council and asked council, I just appeared under citizens to be heard, and asked council to please consider the matter and ask staff to process the application because the code does not require property frontage on an improved road. It only requires frontage on a property frontage / access on a public street. And I have the definition of a public street, and I have section 28.5B here. Neither one has the word improved in them. Staff all along was trying to say that section 3133 applies. Section 133 is a part of the subdivision ordinance. When you do a new subdivision, you have to have roads to city standards. I think we all know that, with the full improvements. And just as a side editorial comment, there's many streets, including where I live, that are dirt with houses, roads that city has paved, not the city standards. Sometimes they put in curbs, and when it's too complicated, too expensive, they put in roadside swales and don't build sidewalks, etc. But they want this man to do all. It's a gross injustice. In response to the applicant's question, the provided code requires the proof because I was still trying to make staff understand that section 3133 didn't apply, so I demanded that they send me the code that requires the improved road. I got an email from Ms. Bisaka that said that, and just gave me a copy of section 3133. Subsequent to that, I met with Ms. Bisaka and tried to explain to her, and she agreed that 28.5 was the applicable code, not 3133. I just have her word. I don't have that in writing. So on our application tonight and what we're considering, 28.5 is listed as well as 3133, and that was just to cover all my bases. Because I personally don't feel that 30 applies because it's, again, it's a subdivision. It's not got to do with a man who's got existing platted, subdivided lot that wants to build a house. Two entirely different situations. So, after meeting with Ms. Saka, and I actually sent a letter to the city saying I was going to appeal her decision because I didn't think it was right. I spoke with Ms. Bisaka, and she recommended that and indicated that staff again would support this variance that's before you, variance 6. And then lo and behold, we think everything's fine, go along for 2 or 3 weeks, we get the staff report, and now they recommend denial after being told otherwise. Yes, I'm upset. Now to the heart of the matter. As you well know, there are 8 separate criteria for granting a variance. And I'm going to read them into the record and following each one by my comments. A is special conditions and circumstances exist which are peculiar land structure or building involved which are not applicable to other land structure. Sir.
We've had that part read in. If you would just read your responses, that would be appreciated.
I'll be glad to do that, sir. Appreciate it. But please, if it's not clear, ask me a question so you know what my comments are relative to. In regard to A, special conditions and circumstances do exist. Frontage access is provided by Parker Drive, which has improvements consisting of city-installed sewer and water with services of subject parcels. The city installed sewer and water and extended service lines to these lots. They're already there. And that was done about 15, 20 years ago. Parker Drive also has storm drains and a stabilized roadway. The road has been open to access by the general public, including commercial vehicles. And if you're all familiar there at all, Cape Ron, the properties on east of Cape Ron are commercial industrial in nature, and heavy traffic comes through there. And instead of turning around, they use Parker Drive quite often to come around and go on out exit Alpine. second comment is the above special conditions and circumstances are not resolving action by the property owner. That's just, they didn't plat the property, city put in improvements and road, it's been done and maintained. Granting the variance will not confer any special privilege. All others with identical circumstances should be entitled to a building permit. The staff interpretation would deprive the owner of rights enjoyed by others with homes on unpaved and otherwise substandard roadways. They exist all throughout the city. Placing 2 homes on 5 platted, let me emphasize the word platted lots with a total frontage of 250 feet is the minimal reasonable use of the land. Properties owned R1B, minimum lot size is 75 by 100. These are much larger than that. So we've got 5 lots in question. We're only asking for 2 homes. The variance will preserve the spirit of the ordinance and remain in harmony with general purpose and intent. Subject property is zoned R1B, single family, medium density. This district is designed as a district, this is a quote from the code. This district is designed as a district for the principal use of medium density single family dwellings. The purpose of the district is to promote orderly and proper development of the single family residential units together with certain structures, got cut mouth, excuse me, and uses that are compatible with property in the district. The proposed homes will comply with regulations, with all R1B regulations, as to lot size, building footage, setbacks, and other regulations contained in the code for properties owned R1B. Public safety and welfare will be assured with the city providing proper maintenance and signage as they currently do on most unpaved roadways. Granting the variance will obviously not result in a change of use. Sorry for taking so much time, board, but this is too important. My next comments are related to the staff report that accompanies this request. The stated Public Works doesn't support because it is not a stabilized unpaved roadway and require proper upkeep and improvement, especially for garbage operations. Comment, garbage pickup is only on a weekly basis. Parker Drive is currently used much more frequently by commercial vehicles without damage. Garbage trucks currently drive down both adjacent streets. They drive all the way down Alpine, they drive all the way down Capron, and they back up a full block, which in my opinion is not a safe condition. The city for years graded Parker Drive and kept it in a better condition. If the city simply resumed periodic grading, garbage trucks could avoid this situation. They too could go around the block instead of backing up each side. The area is not a 2-wheeled path. There are currently 4-wheeled paths created by continuous travel in both directions. Some city maintenance is currently required, obviously not at the fault of the owner, to ensure access to the city, water, sewer, and drainage facilities. Heavy equipment has to get in there to maintain that on an as-needed basis. Previously, there were city-installed stop signs that need to be replaced by the city. There were stop signs at each end of the street, and now the city's objecting because there aren't stop signs there. They took them down. Entry into a public platted right-of-way cannot be denied. There's no barricades there to prevent any traffic from going there, and it does on a daily basis. Entry to a public platted right-of-way cannot be denied without the vacating of the right-of-way. There's adequate room for 2 vehicles to pass in opposite direction. Any other safety issues can and should be addressed by the city. It's their roadway. This is not an owner, this is comments regarding to dividing in the city's mind the parcel that consists with a house that consists of 4 lots. And they're trying to make the argument that that's us creating a hardship because we want to build 2 homes on 4 lots. This is not an owner-created hardship. Apparently, staff is confused between a tax parcel and a platted lot. The tax parcel known as 3945 Outpound consists of 4 platted lots that were created by virtue of the recording of revised plat of Indian River City, Plat Book 4, page 12, in 1924. They were created almost 100 years ago. These guys ain't that old. And then there's the next comment I have is regarding a staff comment in regard to Tract A is denied, blah, blah, blah. They make the statement that we could ask for a separate variance to allow a flag lot with a stem to the property located at 3945 Alpine. Staff has made that suggestion before, making a flag lot, tearing down all the trees on the side of that lot and reducing that and damage that. This staff suggestion is unacceptable to the owner. We've discussed that and we've rejected it a couple of times. It's not reasonable. It would require destruction of several large trees. If you look at the photograph, you're interested back on the front page, if you look at the property where it says lots 1 and 2, and then the note that says existing residence, look north of that. That's chock full of trees and large trees, 50 foot high. For us to prove that, it would cost us further expense, further delay, construction of the son's home, and makes no sense considering an acceptable means of access already exists. Board members, the father needs some help. The sons want to help. City Council, when I appeared before them, advised us to seek a variance. Therefore, we have. Include both codes just to be sure we were safe. This one Mr. Johnson, and that's the other Mr. Johnson, they've suffered enough, both financially and emotionally. And the emotional suffering is more than the financial, but the financial is substantial. It's in your hands. Please, please do the right thing by them. Thank you. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to try to address them.
What section of the code are you claiming is applicable rather than what staff has included?
Zoning code, which is section 28-5B, and I have a printed out copy. If you'd like to read it, you will not find the word improved in it.
No, I read it. What's your definition of public street?
Not my definition. The code definition is in section 37-1.
I read it.
And I will read that.
Go on.
Street, any public or private right-of-way set aside for public travel. 30 feet or more in width. Park is 60. The word street shall also include road, avenue, boulevard, lane, drive-by, so on and so forth. For the purpose of this definition, the word street shall also include street system, a group of public right-of-way functions classified in the traffic circulation map. The code definition of street, not what staff would like it to be. And trust me, I have advised and recommended that the code be clarified to mean what it means or change it to say what it should say. We are entitled to live by the current code. Nowhere in the code does it define a street as an improved paved roadway with asphalt, curb and gutter, sidewalks, and drainage.
While I'm pulling up the survey, what is the width of that public right-of-way?
Parker Drive is 60 feet wide.
Thank you.
There is a city drainage ditch that occupies about the north 15 or 20 feet of it. Actually, they measured from the south right-of-way line to the ditch bank, and it was 48 feet wide. The existing area where cars travel. and trucks, and fire trucks, and floor power and light trucks, and garbage trucks if they want to.
Yes, sir, you have a question?
I have a question for.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
You mentioned about stop signs. The city had a stop signs at that street?
Did the city used to have stop signs there? These are the applicants and the neighbors.
They did have it when I was a kid. I used to ride a motorcycle up and down the street.
Okay. But you mentioned it, that they had stop signs, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the road is not, the comment from Public Works Director that the road is not good for let's say, a fire truck, or it's not solid enough for a fire truck or for a big vehicle, a dump truck or a dump truck to go back and forth on that road, right?
That's what the staff has said, and we disagree strongly.
I know you disagree.
Pardon?
I understand that you disagree with it. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But did you do anything to prove the staff is not correct? No, this is not one. Did you do anything physically?
We did not do any soil borings. I have inspected the road personally, and I have seen trucks drive on, and it's used. So that's what my opinion is based on.
Okay.
My own eyes and observations. We haven't done official soil boring, but we would be glad to prove that or solve that problem, Sid.
Well, there was certain things, like at the end of Alpine Road, there was a curve that comes around, and then the road actually narrows to about maybe 12 feet, at the end. So if you look at that, just to look at the aerial, you'll see it. I mean, I didn't go to the site, but I looked it up. But it seems like the curb coming in. So there has to be some improvements to the roadway in order to, go ahead.
I basically agree with your statement, but the narrow point is what's left in the right-of-way is still wider than at its narrowest point. It's still wide enough for two cars to pass safely. They do and can. But additionally, one thing I really want you to understand is there is a washed-out drainage structure that's been there for almost 6 to 9 months without any city maintenance. It's rolling like crazy. They put a berm around there. The obstruction in the right-of-way is caused by the lack of maintenance by the city of their own facilities.
This is sanitary sewer, or?
Storm drain, it looks to me
Storm
like
drain.
it's got a aluminum pipe that's welded at 45 with a skimmer on the top. It's broken off and washed and laying in the hole. We have pictures of that. And that's why.
Is that the one on the north side?
Yes, sir.
On the north side?
At the west end of.
At the west end?
Of
Okay.
Parker.
And that's a storm, that's not sanitary then?
No, sir. Storm.
Okay, so, but would you be able to improve? When you have done hundreds of jobs, I mean, this is not the first rodeo for you. You've done hundreds of these roadways
I'm
in
not
the
young
county
anymore,
and in the
Steve.
city. But in the county, they allow you to do dirt roads.
Yes, they have standards, and the city ought to have them too, if they
Absolutely.
don't.
Now, you see, to me, it would be just a no-brainer to me to actually say, yes, if it's built to the county dirt road. It's me.
I can't speak
This-
for my client. I
Yeah.
don't think it's all that unreasonable, Sid, personally speaking, but I need to talk to my client before
See,
we commit to anything.
This is like, gives us
But-
a way to think about it, in essence, satisfy of what the Public Works is concerned about. On the other hand, to make the roadway a little bit amenable for the drivers to go in, put stop signs, put all of that improvement in. But it's not major improvements, it's
But-
minimum improvement. Especially if
But-
the roadway is already, what you are saying is the roadway is already ready to go today.
Yeah, they just need to regrade it and keep it in its condition. It's overgrown because they took it off of the street grading schedule and allowed it to deteriorate. So My recommendation to my client would be, if he were to agree to that the city contribute their fair share to correct the damage that they've caused. But in the end, and I'm talking about the washout and the structure, we can't be responsible for their utilities that they've messed up and failed to maintain.
Somehow, you know, the roadway has to be improved in minimum standards, and the minimum standards to me are created by the county for their basic
Yes.
dirt roads.
Basically,
Dirt roads, yeah.
basically the base,
Yeah,
it's a base and a base in there
Base.
that meets reasonable standards.
reasonably enough, wide enough to actually be able to drive, and the residents would feel comfortable, and the trucks would feel comfortable. And if there's washouts, this roadway would be warranted like for at least a couple of years to, you know, see if there's any problems with it, and they'll fix it. That's something that, but that's not on the agenda today.
Right.
That's all I have.
All right, thank you. Are there further questions of this witness? Thank you, sir.
Yes, thank you much. Appreciate you hearing me, and please do the right thing by these folks. They've been abused.
May we have the next card, please?
Shannon Johnson.
Again, sir, if you would give your name and address for the record.
My name is Shannon Johnson. I'm the son of Steve Johnson, and I currently live, you want my home address? 3575 Sable Palm, Apartment H in Titusville. I have some things I'd like you to look at and follow along if you don't mind. All right, we'll get to that in just a second. I got a few things I'd like to talk about before then. I'm 36 years old. I've lived in Titusville my entire life. Fourth generation Titusvillian, okay? My father, that's sitting right over there in that blue shirt, is the owner of all this land. He's 65 years old, and he grew up in that house at 3945 Alpine Lane. My family has been at this location for 65 years, okay? It is very frustrating. Then, you know, he ended up buying the property at where he lives now at 430 Oleander Place, and then later on obtained the lots that we have now, okay? When I was a child growing up, I remember when all them streets were dirt. I do. And I ain't that old. He remembers the whole, when he lived there, there was just a little dirt path in the woods that went from there all the way to Highway 50. That was it. So he watched all of these streets come into creation during his lifetime, okay? When I was a kid, all them neighborhood streets were all dirt. There were a couple paved ones, but there was a bunch of dirt streets. And I watched them all be paved. Parker Drive, this road in question, was exactly the same as all the rest of the streets in the neighborhood. They would come in and grade the whole neighborhood. When they started paving all the streets, the only reason why they didn't pave Parker, well, according to my dad, because when, you know, the road crews are out there paving the streets, he walked out there and talked to the foreman or, you know, the working boss at the time, and you know, and ask them, hey, are you guys going to pave, you know, Parker back here? And they said, no, we don't have any plans to do that. And it was his understanding because nobody lived back there. It was just vacant land. So there's minimal funds. We're only going to pave certain streets, you know, where there's homes and people live. But when I was a boy, I watched the motor grader drive up and down that street all the time. The only reason why it's grassed over and looks in the condition that it is today, instead of a nice graded dirt street, is because the city stopped paving it. But my parents didn't complain about it because it was okay. we didn't really want a whole lot. We were the only, our family is the ones who owned the property back there. And people would go out there and spin out and spin donuts and just tear up the property. So, I mean, I don't know. They should have complained. Obviously, if they would have complained, the city would have continued to keep it maintained and graded and everything else, and then it would be a clear, visible street. It would look like a clear, visible dirt street instead of it being grassed over. But the only reason why it doesn't look that way, it's not from lack of use, it's just from lack of being motor graded. So, anyway, it's just very, very, I can't even follow along that. It's just very frustrating. You know, I've lived there my whole life. My dad's 65 years old. You know, our family has been there for that long, and for somebody to look at me and tell me that that's not a street is just mind-boggling, when there used to be stop signs down there. What happened to them, I don't know. You know, they just disappeared one day. But there's city water and sewage, you know, going underneath the street. Why would you put in city water and sewage under a unapproved public right-of-way? That, how can you tell me that we can't use our land? You know, we're trying to, me and my brother are both trying to just build houses there on the family land and be there to take care of my parents, you know. And these homes, I mean, I should have brought my house plan. I'm not talking about no little rinky-dink house. I mean, I make a pretty good living for myself and do pretty well. I mean, the house is only going to improve the surrounding property, you know what I mean, and taxes and everything else. I mean, the city will make money off. I'm just improving the neighborhood. I don't understand what the deal is, and for them to tell me that it's not a street and that it's not used, and they're just basically trying to describe it as a little dirt path in the woods, is asinine to me. So we took these pictures right here. You know, as you can see, people drive up and down the street all the time. So now I'll get to that packet that you guys, that I gave you. Basically what it is, if you just want to flip through it with me, the first letter is from an FPL lineman. Because when all this started, I was like, well, man, I got to get somebody to say that they can, you know. So I'm just going to read this letter. It's short. It's not long. It says, to who it may concern. My name is Evan Lane. I'm a lineman for FPL. A few days after Hurricane Irma in September of 2017, during power restoration efforts, I responded to the property on Parker Drive between Capron Road and Alpine Lane in Titusville, Brevard County, to repair downed power lines from a fallen tree. Repairing the downed power lines required 3 FPL bucket trucks as well as 2 full-size ass-plunge tree service trucks. All 5 trucks had to access the downed power lines from Parker Drive, which is a dirt road. All the trucks were able to navigate this road with ease without any issues. It is in my opinion that there are no issues concerning the integrity of this road for any type of vehicle, including a 10-ton bucket truck. My brother, who's a Seminole County firefighter paramedic, his chief, and I don't have a copy of it actually, but one of his retired fire chief, you know, wrote a second letter. He came out, looked at the road, and, you know, dry and rainy conditions, you know what I mean, and with us and talked about it. You know, we told him, and I don't have a copy of that letter here, so I can't read that, but you guys are more than welcome to read that. And then we just took a bunch of pictures, you know, and so we got pictures showing vehicles driving in both directions up and down the road. And one of their, and we got pictures, we measured Alpine Lane, outside gutter to outside gutter, which was a total of, right there in the picture, 26 feet. We measured at Parker's narrowest point, which is where this hole is, this storm drain hole. At the most narrowest part of Parker, at Parker, you still have 26 feet. You have more than that, but you have 26 feet. You know what I mean? Which is the width of the paved roads that's got curbing and sidewalks and all that. And then I just got pictures. Okay, so now on the other side of Hopkins, okay, you got the railroad tracks right there. On the other side of the railroad street, on the other side of the railroad tracks, on the east side of the railroad tracks, all these streets pick back up over there and this neighborhood. Well, I would like to bring your attention to page 9 of 14, picture number 2. You can see this is Oleander. My parents currently live on Oleander. The Oleander on that side of Hopkins, this street's only 12 feet wide. This is an existing street that's got trash pickup. You can see all the garbage cans clearly in the picture sitting out next to the road. You can see driveways from homes going to this road. This road is only 12.5 feet. It's got stop signs at both ends, and it is not a one-way street. But that street is not wide enough to accommodate 2 vehicles going in opposite directions. This is an existing city paved street. Well, there's 3 of them. You got Oleander over there, you got Maple Place, and you got Boy Avenue. All 3 of these streets I have pictures of where they're only 12.5 feet wide, but they're paved. Their garbage cans are sitting out next to the road, you know, for city pickup. I guess I'll kind of sum everything up with this is I just want to build a home. My family's, this land's been in my family. My father's owned this land for a long time. I mean, he's been paying taxes on it for a long time. His taxes went up when the city put in water and sewage under this road. I don't understand what the problem is. I just want to build a home, and my brother wants to build a home, which is going to increase the value of the area, and you know what I mean, and everything else. And you're telling me that I can't build a. Staff's suggestion was to build a flag lot. Now, let me ask you if this makes just any sense to me. So they wanted us to do a flag lot through the property at Alpine Lane, 3945 Alpine Lane, that house that my father owns, okay? They wanted to take up 25 feet of his yard that abuts Parker Drive, at the property line, come back into the property 25 feet, and then they would issue us a building permit. So you're meaning to tell me that you will allow me to have a dirt driveway that parallels a perfectly good street, but I can't just use the existing dirt street? That just doesn't make any sense to me. Plus you're hacking up, you're taking, and then the problem is with that too is he was a little short, Loy's was a little short. These big Australian pines are like 100 foot tall. I mean, they're huge. And every once in a while, my parents have to have one taken out. I mean, you're looking at upwards of $1,000 just to take one tree down. And there's like 3 of them that would be in the way. And 8? Okay. But, it's just... So anyways, I don't know how I'm supposed to do this, but I got a short little video that I would like to play. And the video guy back there told me that I could play it. He come out and gave it to me. I got it on a thumb drive. So where would I play that at? Does anybody know?
Give me 1 second.
Yeah, okay. It's real short. It's just, kind of comical. I think it's pretty entertaining. You might get a chuckle out of it. But this is just for the purposes of them saying, city staff saying that the street cannot be navigated 2 vehicles cannot drive down this street at the same time. There is not enough room. Well, by God, what is that? That's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Look at that. Holy goat. I mean, you know, you see all the vehicles exiting Parker Drive. I've got pictures of fire trucks, utility trucks. That tractor trailer drives up and down that street on a daily basis. It's kind of, you see, I mean, you got a beautiful property right there. What's the problem? Why can't we build, I want to build a beautiful home on that property right there that looks at a street that's got city water and sewage running under it, just like all the rest of the streets. The only reason why it looks like the dirt path that the city is claiming is because they stopped maintaining it. They stopped grading it. Well, I wish that I was a time traveler, because if that was the case, I would have told them, when they kind of just stopped grading on their own, hey, you got to call and complain and get them back out here, because in about 20 years, we're going to try to build out here, and they're going to say that it's no longer a street because they stopped maintaining it. So this is just a slideshow of pictures of Parker Drive, of Boy, of Oleander, of Maple Place, you know, basically all the arguments, all the grief. I've done everything in my power. I've been trying to build this house now for like 3 years. I'm like about to tell my dad, sorry, pal, I got to go somewhere else. I mean, you know, it doesn't look like it's going to happen. You know, it's just absolutely, and I'm losing more hair every day by the day. I don't understand. So.
That's how many people are doing down Parker Drive.
Anybody that's in this room, if you have ever navigated Parker Drive and believe that you can navigate Parker Drive safely, please stand. Thank you.
Do you have anything else you wish to add relevant to this, sir?
No.
Are there any questions of this witness?
I have one question for you. The video that you had, where did you take the shots from? Because they are two different, it seems like one is really have nice plush grass and really nice drive, and the other one is just deteriorated. Is it on the west side it's bad?
I stood.
No. Is it on the west side that's bad?
You have
It's
to
on
come to the mic,
Oh,
sir.
okay. I'm sorry. No.
Huh? Are you talking about the whole?
The whole road. It just depends on where at on there.
Okay.
You know what I mean.
So, as you owner, do you have any issues improving this dirt road to the county standards, as I was talking to Mr.
Absolutely not, but it's the
so-
city's property.
Let me ask you this. If the city would allow you to improve that road to a dirt road to the county standards, would you do it? Would you have any issues to it?
At my expense?
Yes.
Well, that would determine at what expense that would be.
Okay. Well, so you need to talk to Mr.
Okay.
Lord, because he has done hundreds of them.
Okay.
Okay? And you can bring it back to us
Okay.
afterwards too, so.
Okay, but my question is if the city used to grade it, why can't they start grading it
City-
now?
This is the same thing with there's no arguments here, just.
Okay.
This is the county does that, you have a lot, we do that all the time with the county, we have a lot on a county road, we have to improve the roadway as a dirt road to that lot. So if it is substandard roadway as a dirt road, it needs to be improved to your lot.
But as far as that video was concerned, I just stood out
Well,
there
you
like-
might not have to do anything.
and I did this with my phone. That's how I took the video.
Is there a street sign there
There used to be a long time ago, but no, currently there is no street sign.
on either end?
No. No.
Any other questions?
I don't have any other.
All right, thank you.
Our next witness, please.
Debbie Yeagy? Yeagle, sorry.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm a real good friend of the family for a long, long time. Plus, I also worked for the property appraiser's office.
I need your name and address for the
I'm sorry.
record, please.
Deborah Yeagle, 2998 Guinevere Drive. That's Titusville, Florida, 32780.
Thank you.
Okay. And I've worked for the property appraiser for 13 years. I'm retired now. And I pulled up the plat and as many things as I could find, you know, is showing how much right-of-way is behind there. I was on that road particularly today, along with that big tractor trailer truck, the blue one that you saw. We had no problem going down that road, either of us. The road seems fine to me. They've been paying their taxes for a long time. These boys have always stood up for their parents. You know, when his dad got sick and everything like that, they want to be there with their parents. And like you said, there's so many roads out there that are just dirt roads. You look at anywhere, there's dirt roads everywhere. So I can't figure out why somebody hasn't, I mean, why do they have to even have a road to build a house there? You know, if they're able to access it by this dirt road, then they should be able to. Otherwise, they've got pieces of property that are landlocked and they can't use them. You know, which that would be hard. If the Johnsons did not own the parcel that has the house on it and somebody else owned it, they're not going to give up part of their property because the Johnsons own these other parcels. When the parcels came into effect, the house was on parcel 1 and 2, and then 3 and 4 was added onto it. Then 5, 6, and 7 have their own tax account number, as he recalls. I've read all the deeds from when they first started, even Granddad having the property. So here we are, they have different tax account numbers. So basically on the properties, you've got lots 3 and 4, 5, 6, and 7. So out of those 5 lots, someone can survey those 5 lots and make them into 2 very easily just by turning in a survey, telling them who wants what, and doing a deed to refer that person to the lots and go right through the property appraiser's channels, and those lots will be divided. So I really don't understand either why they're having such a hard time with, you know, building there or getting a road when, I mean, it kind of is a simple process, just taking and splitting those 4, 5 lots apart. And we do it all the time, or we did when I worked there. Thank you.
Any questions of this witness? Okay. Do we have?
Oh, and, excuse me, I did. When I looked on the plat, I did.
Excuse, don't talk
sorry.
till you come up.
I know.
Like-
I can yell loud, no. When I looked on the plat that I pulled off, behind the house, there is a 50-foot right-of-way behind their house. So behind all that land, there's a 50-foot right-of-way. Also, when they had named the street way back then, when they did the revised plat of the Indian River City, they had Parker Street was, or Parker whatever, was going to be the name. Originally, it was Bow, just like on the other end. So they've got a 50-foot right-of-way also back there from what the plat says. And then the road was never done, like he said, because no houses were built there. But if houses had been built there, you would have built that road. That little road, when I drove down it today, it's not long. What, maybe 500 feet?
Yeah, maybe.
It might be 500 feet of a road is what they're looking to get. So it just seems that the city should at least try and help them out in that respect. Especially one of the things that is hard for me to understand. I've lived in this town since '73, and I love living here, and it's changed a lot. But you know what? Whether people realize it or not, we're one of the highest millage rates in the county of Brevard. We pay more taxes in the city of Titusville than Vieira per $1,000 for their home because they're in the county. We pay here in Brevard County, we pay over $21 per thousand in taxes. And yet they collect $16 and some change per thousand in Viera. So why can't we have a little stretch of that road done to help these two kids get a house? When that house is built, it's a $300,000 house. Think about how much tax revenue that's going to bring to our city by him paying property taxes. It's going to bring a lot of money there for both those houses.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have another card?
Yes, sir. Stephen Johnson, John Johnson?
I'm the oldest. My name's Stephen Johnson. I'm the oldest. I'm also trying to build a house.
Your address again, please, sir?
278 Macon Drive in Titusville.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not going to sit up here and beat a dead horse,
Thank you.
but I've had enough of Titusville. I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars fighting this, and I've had some pretty smug remarks from certain people sitting in this room and in meetings. We're not going to pave it. You can do what you want. I don't have the money to pave that road. If I did, I'd pave it. I spent over $10,000 fighting this fight. I've agreed to the city 3 times, agreed to their stuff, and then they reneged on it. I don't know what else that we can do to satisfy them. It's got city water and sewage. My dad's been paying taxes on it when I was a kid. They put signs on my front door that said if that grass wasn't mowed, they were going to mow it and then charge my father for it. That's where I started mowing that grass when I was 8 years old. So it's always had stop signs on there till probably 1990 probably, when I was going into high school. Stop signs and street signs, it was there. I used to ride my motorcycle all through Laceda before Laceda was even born or built. So I'm tired. The flag lot, I shouldn't have to pull 8 trees that are 100 feet long or, tall to put a driveway next to a street. I don't have the money for that. I'm a fireman. I've been a fireman paramedic for 18 years. I'm a nurse as well. And my dad's health is, it's not good. And if something happens to him, I got to be there to take care of everything. And there's 4 of us, but, I've been taking care of people for most of my adult life. And, we need some help. That's all I got.
Are there any other cards to be heard?
Royce Morrison Jr.?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Royce Morrison Jr. I own the property at 4220 South Hopkins, and I've been in this town since 1983. I went to high school with Jason Johnson. I want to start before I even say anything about me or who I am or what I am. That's the first time I've ever seen him cry in a 25-year friendship. The guy's a wrestler. He's seen some of the craziest stuff on this planet. This is a very serious thing to this family. A little bit about me. I own 3 businesses in this town. I've been a pastor in this town since 2007. I, too, help people every single day. A couple of things I want you to hear me say. And once again, I'm going to try not to beat a dead horse. I probably know the least about ordinances in the city and the code and right-of-ways than anybody in the room. Jason came to me and he said, will you come speak on our behalf? Here's what I can tell you. I lived on Best Avenue right up the road as a child. I lived on Knox McCrae right up the road as a child. My grandfather raised 7 children less than 500 feet from the end of this road on Cape Ron Avenue, right there. I own what used to be the Indian River City Civic Center at the corner of Hopkins and Knox McCrae. I own the building next to it. That was the first YMCA, the fire department of Indian River City. I know this community, I know that area, and I know these people. I listened. I learned a lot as I came in here. I was taking notes and underlining things as the gentleman from the city. They ask it, but I'm going to ask it again. Why is it unmaintained? The city stopped doing it. When I was a kid, we played football there. Let me tell you about my memories of that street, because I know that street very well. We raced from stop sign to see who could win. It was the greatest day when the motor grader graded the road because we had a good football field to play on. That was in the late 80s, early 90s. So I know for a fact it used to be maintained very well. I know for a fact there were stop signs there. I know for a fact there were street signs there. Why did it end up in its current condition as being described as a two-lane, two-rut trail or whatever it is? Because it's got stopped being maintained. No stop signs, they were removed. I also struggled with the idea, and maybe I don't know all the rules. Maybe I don't. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I may not be the smartest guy standing up right now. But I struggled with the nomenclature, or the verbiage that said, an owner-created hardship. I know that guy over there. He never asked nobody for nothing in his life. And he's now sick. His daddy moved here at a great time in our country when men and women, the smartest and most brilliant in the world, wanted to move to this place to doing something incredible and send people to the moon. This guy right here, him and his family supported that. While the engineers of NASA created all these rules that we go by today and create all this time that we spend here tonight, these guys were just working. And now he's retired and sick. And he raised a family just strong enough that want to stay by him and stick with him. Want to build a house on their granddaddy's land. Sir, I saw you take an oath before I come in here today, and I heard that lady ask you, do you promise to defend the Constitution and the ideals and all of those things? What's more American than a man wanting to live on his granddaddy's property? Move in next to mom and dad and take care of mom and dad. A guy that's a firefighter and a nurse, raised 4 successful boys, participated in everything right here. What you don't know about these guys is they're currently working to create a nonprofit for sports, a wrestling club and a wrestling group for the youth of this community. They're involved, they're plugged in, they are this community. Why? It's become obvious to me because it's not a priority. I didn't use that word, it was used over here. We're on a limited budget. I also heard the lady say that if multiple owners would have owned this property during those years, they would have had to have paved it like they did everything else. So this man's being punished because he owned all the property? He's being punished because he owned 3 lots rather than just one and someone else didn't own it? Now he has an unsellable piece of property. That's pretty tough to swallow if you're these guys. Let me tell you about what else I know. I've told you that we played football there. I've told you that it was graded. I've told you there were stop signs. I've told you that I've been in there. Let me tell you about it being non-passable. One of the things that we do in our ministry, in our community service, is when we have crazy disaster here, we hit the streets and help folks. Some of the folks that we helped during Hurricane Irma and Hurricane Matthew are the linemen and the people who come to our aid to restore power to our communities. Not once, but twice. I delivered dinner and food to no less than 8 or 9 linemen and heavy equipment trucks parked on that road because it's a place they could all park and be out of the way. And I fed at least 25 linemen from out of this state at least 2 times on that road during a hurricane. No, you guys live here. You know what happens in a hurricane, the rain, the water, all that. During rain and water in our worst weather conditions possible, these people felt safe enough to park 8 and 9 lineman trucks up and down this little parcel of road here. So to say that it's not travelable or navigable by heavy equipment, that's not so at all. That's just someone lazy who doesn't want to go try it, because I know for a fact it is. Now, the only other thing I wanted to say was I struggle with the idea, and sir, I said I appreciate I saw you trying to create resolution. I'm a win-win kind of guy. But I struggle with the ideology that in one of the highest military cities, I own 2 commercial properties, and when I don't have tenants there, I still pay this city taxes just to have service hooked up there. I pay services all the time for the city. And a guy who's paid taxes on that property for his whole life, the best resolution you have is if you bring it up to county code, then we'll probably approve it. I think it's time that the city do the thing that it's supposed to do. Take care of our own. I'm not going to beat a crazy dead horse and get everybody fired up, but we haven't taken care of our waterways. We don't take care of our sewer systems, and there's a lot we don't take care of. I own property in this town. I own businesses. Try to walk down the sidewalk in front of my business. You can't because there's light poles sitting in the middle of the sidewalks right now. Somebody approve that. Take care of this man and his family and do the American thing, the right thing. They raised a family here. They pay taxes here. They work hard here. They love this community. They support this community. And it would be a sad shame for this community not to support them. Thank you.
Thank you. How many more cards do we have?
That's it.
Okay, that is all the cards. All right. So at this time, we will close the public comment and bring it back to the board. Is there any follow-up anyone would have to make to ask a question of staff at this point?
I have a question of staff. With the first speaker that was up here, referring to the definition in the code regarding the street and the public or private right-of-way set aside for public travel. That is a different definition than roadway, which specifically has the word improved in it. Now, I would like to know the difference of that for staff's position on this whole situation. Interestingly enough, after the witnesses spoke with the pictures of the grass and playing football, you don't play football on a road. You do not park lineman trucks on a road that is commonly traveled. Now that doesn't seem to be a roadway. So I see the opposite side now. What is staff's position on public street versus roadway?
In section 28-5, it talks about property frontage and access. And it talks about those kinds of access onto properties as part of a subdivision. In the definitions, and if you just pardon me, I'm going to bring this up here. There are several definitions that we can refer to. The one is the right-of-way. A right-of-way is described as land reserved, used, or to be used for a street, alley, walkway, drainage facility, or other public use or service purpose, and the title to which is in public ownership. In section 30-237, public streets and private roads and subdivisions, B. It talks about, in A and B, it talks about that the property should be abutting a public street and shall comply with these requirements. So you go to the definitions for street. You see it says any public or private right-of-way set aside for public travel, 30 feet or more in width. The word street shall also include the words road, avenue, boulevard, lane, drive, circle, court, way, arterial, and highway. For the purpose of this definition, the word street shall also include street system, a group of public rights-of-way functionally classified on the future traffic circulation map as follows, and so on. It gives you additional definitions here. Then there's also another definition.
So my real question is, the definition of roadway specifically uses the word improved, whereas the definition of street does not use the word improved.
Yeah,
Does that have bearing on this particular path?
I was going to follow that up with that definition of roadway, and that says here, that portion of right-of-way improved, designed, or ordinarily used for vehicular travel, exclusive of the berm shoulder. In the event right-of-way includes two or more separate roadways, the term roadway is used here and should be, and so on. So collectively, we see this as these sections of the code that I referred to and these definitions, collectively, we've interpreted that administratively, that the parcel, in order to receive a building permit, must front on a public roadway, a right-of-way that includes an improved paved roadway or some kind of stabilized surface there that is maintained by the city, that meets city standards. In this case, we don't have that case here in this particular segment of the roadway, the public right-of-way, excuse me.
And I have another question. It sounds, I don't know if staff can even answer this. It sounds like there were stop signs or a street sign. Would there be any reason that staff is aware of why a street sign would be taken away, or if staff knows whether that road was previously maintained by the city and if there's a reason why it would not continue to be maintained by the city?
I can easily answer why it probably was not been maintained as what was described. I'm not familiar, I'm not familiar as to what kind of improvements were there before, if at all, or how it was maintained at all. I'm not going to disagree with the public on what they described here. What I can say to you today is that the Public Works Department does not have the funding, nor has been directed to provide funding in order to maintain this segment of the roadway because it never was improved according to city standards.
One more question. We have, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lots on this. It's actually 5 lots. That's the old lots, right?
Correct. The plat, I believe, as it was originally platted, I think prior to the code, was platted with several 50-foot wide lots.
And those are all landlocked.
I'm sorry?
They will be landlocked. I mean, they can't build on them, right?
All I can say at this point is that they do have frontage onto a public right-of-way. However, it is an unimproved. In other words, there's not a road there. So that's how I can answer that. I can't say that they're landlocked because they do have legal frontage onto a public right-of-way.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know why I decided to become part of this Board of Adjustment and Appeals until recently, in the last half an hour. I happen to have been the Assistant City Manager in the City of Titusville back in the 90s. And when the paving was taking place, roads that did not have homes built on due to funding constraints, the city decided at the time not to continue to grade them and maintain them. Therefore, I am in a position to say that the reason for the deterioration of those roads, in this instance Parker, it is not the fault of the owner, but the city of Titusville who chose at the time, due to funding constraints, not to continue to maintain them because there was nobody living there. I could see the point of the city, but to continue to blame the owner for the city's faults, in my view, it is incorrect. And I'll take this opportunity also to say that the recommendation by the city to go with a flag lot, if this corner lot was not owned by the Johnsons, how could you make that as a possible solution? That's unreasonable, to take property from somebody else to make those properties accessible.
I agree with you, sir. That would be we would probably not have that recommendation if they were separately owned. That's correct.
All right, are there other questions of staff or any other discussion that we'd like to have and speak on this matter?
I like to discuss this with you guys here. I mean, there is a very critical issue here. Is, you know, do we give the city more work? Do we tell the client or the owners, you know, they have to improve the roadway to minimum standards? I mean, there is certain things that you know, we can't. There's either if we give it to them, if we give this, allow this to happen today, and the variance is accepted by the board, then what would happen to maintenance of the road? Is the city going to go back and maintain it now?
I don't know that we have that authority to tell the city to do things. We can suggest and give our recommendations, but I don't know, council, you have any feedback for that?
I can tell you, hang on one second. As it was stated by the Public Works Director in response to the question, what would the city's response be if building permits were issued as requested by the applicant? His response is, my concern is that issuing any permits, which would be the result of granting this variance, on a dirt path will require the city to accept and maintain the area which cannot operate as a road in the current condition. Unimproved, i.e. dirt roadways, have characters of roads such as lanes appropriate with width of lanes, covered with a stabilized surface for entire width of lanes, signage as required for vehicular travel and maintenance. By granting access onto a two-wheel dirt path, the current condition has no directional flow for traffic, no stop signs to regulate entry onto the abutting streets, no room for two vehicles to pass in opposite directions, clear path recovering areas for both lanes, etc. These items will have to be addressed to avoid unsafe conditions when being used as a roadway. So my interpretation of Mr. Cook's response at the time where this was being discussed in draft form basically is that the city would be required to accept and maintain that road, and then it would be an additional expense that the city has not currently budgeted for, and the evaluation, I'm sure, would be greater detail than what I just read to you. You've read it already tonight. And so that's just the superficial analysis of how Public Works would accept a road that's not currently at city standard. And so we would have to go in and increase our budget for the road to be improved at the city's expense, is my interpretation of his response.
Was the Public Works invited to be present here to answer our questions if we had any?
Any staff members, yeah, who made a review and this are invited to be here, but we found that it was not necessary for them to be here. If they have specific questions for them about their budget and about their priorities, we can certainly relay that to them and we can provide that information to you. I think, though, that even, let's say, for example, I'm just throw out this hypothetically, because typically when we first had this conversation, and as one person from the public stated, about why the denial happened for the building permit was, well, you can put in a road to city standards. Even if a private owner, a property or an applicant did that, the city would now become responsible for the maintenance of what's been improved there. So that's a question for Public Works. Is that a priority? Is that something the city wants to accept? I think if it was improved, the city would probably have to accept it because it is public right-of-way right now.
Further thoughts or comments? Or motion?
Well, as far as comments go, just like the Florida statutes, I think the code, and I think that's what staff was suggesting, should be read in harmony. While the specific definition of street in that particular definition provision right there does not have the word improved, access way, which is right below it, does include the word improved. Roadway, which references streets, includes the word improved. There's no street sign. I'm not even sure how one gives directions to this location if you're trying to turn down this alleged street. And while the public may take offense to it being referred to as a two-wheel rut path, it was interesting because, and I indicated this already, when I'm listening to the first speaker and I'm looking at the definitions, I'm like, good point. But when I see these pictures of it completely unimproved, hearing the stories of actually what is happening on this path, it's not a common path to be traveled with vehicular traffic. It does not, by a regular definition, by reading these codes in harmony, it doesn't suggest that it's an actual street. And I understand the comments of making it a flag lot and requiring somebody to, give up part of their land. Well, that's an easement is what is granted at that point in time. No one's being punished for not maintaining it. And could things have been maintained early on? Maybe. Was there a point at that time if no one else was living there? Maybe. And that's just how society works, and that's how budgets work. I mean, I can count the potholes on my street if I could count that high. There's no money right now. If we acknowledge, if we permit this variance, and we grant the variance, and we name this pathway to be a formal street, then will it be repaired? Will it be fixed? And I understand the the public's comments about making a flagpole driveway up the side. I mean, trees, neither here nor there. No one's providing measurements on that at this point. But I understand the comment of, okay, we're going to take this section right next to this other dirt section, and we're going to make 2 dirt sections and call it a driveway. Well, the difference in that is simply that the city doesn't need to maintain it. And I understand that traffic can go up and down that road, and I can understand that linemen can go up and down, and fire trucks and whatever else can go physically up and down it, but they don't commonly do so. And I think we're putting on a significant burden on the city and potentially future homeowners if we grant the variance. Definitions aside, I mean, and I understand the comments and the emotion and everything else, but that's neither here nor there. We have a code to look at, and I appreciate their comments and I understand, but there's a code.
Mr. Chairman, I never got my chance to rebuttal. Can I make a couple brief remarks?
We did close the public hearing. I would have to ask the members if they would allow that, sir.
I'll be very brief, please.
Mr. Ward has asked for a rebuttal. Is there any?
I move to approve the rebuttal.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Aye. Or nay.
Nay? All right. You may approach, sir.
Thank you. Some of the conversation centered around definitions of the code and whatnot, and I'm going to try to briefly explain the difference. A right-of-way is the width of the land. It has nothing to do with any improvements or all the improvements enough. A right-of-way is a right of someone else to use something, whether it be an easement or a dedicated roadway for a specific use. When the code section that was just recently quoted, access way, and furthermore, that's the right-of-way. Then there's something called a roadway. The roadway is where cars, vehicles, bicycles, people pass through. A typical subdivision street is 50 feet wide. The roadway is 26, 22 foot of asphalt, 2 foot of curb on it. So the roadway is the pavement and the curb. That's where the traveled area within a wider area of land is referred to as a right-of-way. This definition of access way states that it's an improved area intended to provide access. Improved does not include the word paved. An access way, a passage that when you clear land, you improve it. When you put in subbase, you improve it. When you put in a base, you improve it. When you grade the road, you improve it. Parker Drive is an improved. Is it improved to city subdivision standards? No, no one knows that. I mean, no one's arguing that. Parker Drive is an improved roadway within a right-of-way that's been existing for almost 100 years. and they deserve a variance on this. And I have to take objection to people who are worried about the city's budget, okay? My street has potholes too. And whether I get a variance or not, if I justified one, it's got nothing to do with whether the city fixes a pothole or not. Yes, all this big holderall is because staff is bound to determine that they don't want to take on the responsibility of regrading this road and maintaining it. And that's not fair to the property owners. Thank you.
Well, in my time as being chairman, I must say that, yes, I do not always agree with staff recommendations, Mr. Lloyd, but they can only go by what is written as code. And that's why we are here to listen for variances. Staff is bound by what is in the book, what is called code, if you will. So for them to deny because that is what they are directed to do, that is their responsibility. They, at this point, we have not changed the rules to allow them to do administrative changes. That has been talk about that, but that hasn't happened yet. So to say that staff is just bound and determined to say no, it's because staff, as we've seen many times on many of our appeals, is having to abide by what is written. And in this case, that is their interpretation of what is written. So, that being said, is there any more comment, or would anybody like to suggest or make a motion at this time?
There is no more discussion, or?
Done list?
No. Just the only discussion I have with you guys, you know, just this roadway, it's already existed. So it might be in great shape, and it might not need that much work to actually get it back to what it was before. So, and I'm not sure what we are arguing about. It's just who is going to be the one bringing it back to what it was before. I don't know if that's, you know, that's doable, and I'm not sure how much money it's implicated in this, and how much work do you have to do to get it to that point.
The question is not who's going to maintain it. The question is this property abutting a street right now? That's what we're asking.
Yeah.
So we are not asking the public, I'm sorry, at this time.
It is in front of it. You have a public right of way.
It's a plotted road on the map, correct?
I'm sorry, are you talking about the parcel? That's
The road.
question? The road itself?
Parker.
It's that public right-of-way was created through Plat several decades ago.
And,
yes.
and the city entered into a heck of an investment when they put sewer lines there in the event that the property owner will build houses there, hook up to there instead of having septic tanks because of our aquifer and whatnot. It seems to me that the argument or the comments made by Public Works, the definition that they put on the condition of the road, they made a lesser argument about the condition of the road than the folks here that actually showed us live the possible condition of the road. I tend to believe the pictures that perhaps the condition of the road is not as bad, but the assessment looking at compression of the road and all that was not done by Public Works as they, at least the way they told us. They just looked at it, and this is our view. My point is, if that road, if the city enter into an investment, looking into the future when the homes were going to be there, the city made the decision not to maintain it because it was not cost effective because there was no homes there. the city will also, if they build the houses, receive tax money. They will be hooked up to the utilities, pay sewer, pay taxes. Perhaps in the upfront, the city may enter some cost just to put a couple of signs there. Maybe all they have to do is just throw a grader and the road will be up to at least minimum standards. I don't know this. I'm here guessing because there's nobody from the city who can tell me that we tested it, it's not travelable, and we cannot send vehicles through there and feel that it will be a safe road.
I think I can answer your question. Right now, there is, as members Chahab already mentioned, we do not have criteria in the code for any other standard than what's in the subdivision code. So there are minimum standards for street improvements right now. And so if there is, I mean, if you're discussing coming up with an alternative, that would probably have to be adopted by ordinance by the city council to come up with some alternative standards, if that's what you're talking about. But that would be a separate action by the city council. If that's one of recommendation you'd like to make to city council, you can certainly do that too.
I would like to, Brad, have you point another point about Parker Drive out to the board this evening. I'm looking at the figure 4 in the agenda packet on page 28. And that shows the applicant's desired outcome in that figure. But what it also shows is delineation of Parker Drive to the north of Tract B. East of that, could you describe why Parker Drive could not be a through street at that point, or if it could be?
Let me see if I understand your question. You're asking, so right now, the
I'm
way
talking about the property east of Parker that has already been vacated and what that has done to the right-of-way as far as it connecting to Capron. Does it connect all the way through?
Yes.
Between Alpine and Capron, there's a property east of Tract B.
Yes, you're looking, I believe it's called Parcel 8 or something like that there, yes? Is that, so you're?
And north of Parcel 8, has part of Parker been vacated?
No.
Okay.
No, it has not.
Isn't the threshold question whether Parker is a street or not? Because if it is by definition a street, then there's no variance needed and they can just build, right? And if it's not a street, then they need the variance. So has there already been a determination of whether this grassy path with vehicles on it is a street or not? Has there been a determination?
That's why we're here tonight. We do not believe it is a street. No, it does not meet city standards.
So is there a formal determination somewhere about that?
That's what this application before you, this interpretation that we've given you here, that is it. We do not, the city the public works director, the city administration, the administrator of the code has determined that this is not there is no road there. And so, or a street rather. So there's
And yet we keep calling it Parker.
It's Parker, it's Parker Drive because there is a public right of way.
All right.
And it dead ends, this Parker Drive dead ends at the railroad track and dead ends at the property to the west, which was vacated all the way to the north right away of Parker.
That's correct, yeah. There was Parker Drive used to extend all the way to further west. I want to say to Rainy Road.
Yeah, the Rainy Road.
And back in the late 80s or 90s, there were 2 sets of vacating that happened. And that whole segment between Rainy Road and Alpine was vacated. And portions of the right-of-way were given to the adjacent property owners. And part of our research found that it was primarily at the request of the developer for Lasita in order to provide space for stormwater management.
Now, I think you brought up a very, very good point. I think the argument should be, is this a street or it's not a street? And it's not, I don't think we're going the wrong direction. I think you hit it. It's just, we need to find out if this is a street. And that's a definition that has to be supported by something, you know? And to me, it's a street, it's a Parker Drive. I mean, it's in everything. It's like it's a right-of-way.
Is
But-
is there a reason why on figure 4, there's no dotted line above 8? Lot 8, parcel 8? You can't really read it.
So there was, the original plat included the creation of Boy Road, as was mentioned by a member of the public. And then there was a replat, which these properties, lots here are part of.
No,
And-
sir.
Okay, well, I'll stand corrected if Mr. Ward would like to explain. But my understanding was that there was a replat of the, which we have here in the legal description, called Revised Plat or Plan of Indian River City. And so I'm not sure what that dotted line is supposed to mean exactly, but it looks like it may have been that portion of the right-of-way was just included as part of that replat. That's probably what it means. But it has no significance to us as far as the variance application before you tonight. I'll defer to, I mean, if you'd like to listen to Mr. Ward explain give you an explanation of that, I mean, if it's correct, I'll stand corrected on it.
Who is the owner of that H? Is that one party that officially is on Capron, their address?
Are you talking about the parcel for, east of Track B?
That's correct.
All right. I do not know who the owner is of that, but that is a different owner. Go ahead. This parcel right here. They're just now asking about parcel 8 right
I have the answer if I'm allowed to speak.
I asked a question, who was the owner? Just pertain to that, who is the owner?
Yeah, that's on the, I don't know the name, but there's a residence there. It was a Habitat by Humanity house. It was
Okay.
2 lots that was combined, and there's an existing house there that fronts Capron. That's
All right, so
private
that's the same-
property.
That's the same owner. That
It's
was my
not-
question.
Not
That
Mr.
is the same
Johnson,
owner
it's a
that-
separate owner.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
I have a problem because in one instance, the city calls it a street, and in another one, it calls it something else. If it's not improved, Mr. Parrish, your definition was, it does not meet the city specs. Is that what you said, for it to be a street? Is that the reason why it's not called a street, even though it's plotted as a street?
Correct. We do not have a city, a road the way per city standards there. We do not consider there to be a road there. We do see a public right-of-way, yes. It just does not have the improvement necessary for it to be safely traveled over and have city equipment and other vehicles over it. That's basically what the Public Works Director was saying in his letter.
Can I provide one statement to your definition?
No.
I'm sorry.
I have evidence to your definition.
No, sir, I'm sorry.
Brad, just one more question for you. There is plenty of streets that are still dirt streets in the city, right? And they are streets.
I'd have to see the example you're talking about.
But is there streets that are unpaved in the city?
There are several right-of-ways, public
Right-of-ways
right-of-ways in the
that
city.
are unpaved and being used as unpaved, right?
Well, certainly this here is also being used for vehicle traffic. We can't prohibit vehicle traffic or any other kind of traffic onto this public right-of-way. I mean, it's public access. So yeah, there are other examples like this.
Okay.
To what's before you tonight, yes.
And do those have names like streets or avenues or drives?
Yes, sir.
They do.
Yes. This is not unique to Titusville. There were other subdivisions and other, that were old subdivisions created in other communities like this in Florida. This is not a unique situation, but every time there's a permit being requested or an improvement being requested, it does create a unique situation in that particular case. That's what we're showing, what we have before you tonight is specific to this property.
And this was plotted, best of our knowledge, almost 100 years ago or whatever, as Indian River City, or 80 years ago, whatever the number might be.
It's certainly prior to our current
Way
code.
prior to our code or incorporation into Titusville, et cetera.
Right, our current land regulations were adopted, the current version was adopted in 1993.
Correct.
And this area was platted prior to that.
Yes.
So what's the practical efforts that need to be done to make this a nice dirt road?
You're asking for staff's recommendation on?
Just put me in a ballpark.
Oh, for a dirt road?
Yeah, and I'm not looking for a price, just what does it actually take to make these pictures some sort of nice dirt road, as nice as a dirt road could be?
I couldn't really answer that question. I probably have to defer to maybe member Shahab might be able to describe that, or maybe even someone from the public could really describe how that construction.
So we gotta cut some
really
grass, and then
happens.
what?
Just to grade it, maybe do some, there are some modifications that need to take place. It might be very simple. That's what I was trying to tell Mr. Ward, earlier. It might be very simple to do, and it might be a little bit more involved. And because the road has been used before, so it should be, the base, the sub-base should be okay, should be in great shape. There is some erosion that took place. It might need some regrading, but that's regrading. That's part of the maintenance of a dirt road. But you can't create a problem by grading the road. So it has to be done to some kind of standards. The only standards that I know of are the county standards. So, and it could be just fine. It could be just needs some regrading, and it's done. But who makes that decision? We can't make the decision for the city.
So for me, the day that street sign came down, somebody should have said, hey, city, we lost our street sign. Can you come back out and put it up? I personally do not consider this to be a street or a road. If it was, and then when I see the picture, I don't consider it to be a street or road by looking at the terminology used by staff, the department, city and works, whatever. And then when I see the pictures, I don't consider that to be a road either, because it's covered in grass and it's got some ditches in it to drive. So I personally don't consider that a road, even looking at the code. If it looked like a regular dirt street, I might feel differently. And certainly if it had a street sign looking like this, if it had a street sign, I'd say, yeah, it's obviously intended to be a road, a street. That's my problem with it.
Yeah, the argument about this, it's not like you go down a street, the street sign is gone. If nobody reports it to the city, nobody is going to replace it.
Right. And then also, no one's getting pulled over on that grassy area. No one's getting in trouble for playing on it and things like that because it's not used as a street anymore.
Yeah, you have a point there. It's not maintained. It needs to be maintained. So somebody has to maintain it, and the city is saying they don't have the funds to maintain it. And what I suggested is do the basic thing, and I don't want to put the burden on the owners, but if that basic thing, that initial step could be done, maybe that would be a starting point for the city to take it over.
My suggestion, if I was sitting in the public, would be to get a street sign put up. Because that would change my mind.
It's about $300.
The thing.
I'm not asking anybody.
The thing is, let's take a case in point. Last year, we had a hurricane. A whole bunch of signs blew up. Did that then call the city street no longer there because of a lack of sign? That just doesn't make any sense to me. That one sign will make this be a street or one stop sign. I have a problem with that. And the thing is, where I think the biggest problem that I have, I was part of the city when we chose not to maintain houses or streets that did not have any homes in it. And unfortunately, today's my first day. I could not walk that place and take the public works director with me and says, give me a better definition than the what do you call it, a two-wheel trail or whatever. I tend to believe that road, as you say, is going to be an easy fix. Probably some compacting dirt, run a grader, and it'll be just fine. especially when it's only 2 homes there. And I wish the city Public Works was here to see if they could come up with a solution to help us with this. Put a barrier that says local traffic only and allow these folks to build a house. And because it's only 2 homes there in that street, and doesn't appear that too many people will be going down there to take a shortcut anywhere because there's nowhere to go.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is, yeah, I don't believe anyone is just trying to make a guess at this. We don't want to do that. I've lived in Titusville since 1971. In my opinion, our roads are in deplorable condition. We're having a difficult time just maintaining it, trying to maintain what we have. How much more burden do we want to put on the city to take, I'll call it a dirt road. We may have different concerns with calling it that, but I'll call it a dirt road. On a maybe, it might not take too much to fix it, to bring it up to speed. I don't think we really want to do that. We can't afford to do that, for one thing. You start digging around the hole and the bottom falls out, what do you have then? And these are just some thoughts that I have on the whole thing. Do we want to make a guess? To say, well, it probably wouldn't cost more than a few $100. Put a sign on the end, call it a road. What's that mean? 0. I live on Knox McCrae Drive, and I've lived in that general area in Titusville since 1971. And as I say, our Titusville roads are in deplorable condition, in my opinion. You know when you get to Titusville, you start the potholes and the ruts and swales, and you just know when you drive into Titusville, just by the feel of the road. I don't know that we can afford to take on a guess and think, well, maybe it won't cost too much to bring this road up to speed, up to code, whatever you want to call that. But then maybe it will. Once we commit something, how do we back off? How would the city back off?
Just a suggestion, and I think we are talking about things that we don't know too much in detail what it would take to do it, and probably Mr. Ward would go out and then make a list of these things that need to happen to the road in order to bring it back, or do something like that. Do like maybe minimum grading, minimum putting 2 signs in.
Right, but I would think we'd want a representative from the city to go with him to do that.
But somebody has
Keep
to
everybody
start.
honest.
Somebody has to start that.
Right.
Somehow it has to be started.
Right.
And if you have something that you can look at and you say, we need 2 stop signs. We need to take 1 curb out. We need to regrade this for 2 days. A grader doesn't cost more than $500, $600 a day. So the thing that it might be something doable, something like it's not out of reach for the city or for the applicants.
Right.
So my feeling, it is doable, and and since this road has been traveled forever, it should be in great shape underneath that grass.
Theoretically, I agree. It should be in great shape, theoretically, but is it? And my concern is, how far do we dig into that to make that determination, and we find we have to put more and more money into it? Is it worth it? I don't know.
To tell you, we deal with this every single day. We are a civil engineering firm, one of the things that we deal with is you get the soils engineer, you say the soils engineer would go out and do a couple of borings, couple of cores, and then we'll say, this is what the specifications of the boring is. You give it to the public works director, say, this is what we came up with, and we're gonna put 2 signs on either side, you know, we're gonna give them just a sketch plan showing what the improvements are gonna be on this road, and it becomes like a viable alternative instead of just talking about it and see, you know, what to do. I think the best thing that you came up with is this is a question, is it a roadway or it's not?
Right.
You know, and to me it is, because it was used in the past. But now when you look at the pictures, when I looked at the video shows it's all grass. It's not like, although you know you saw the road, the cars going back and forth, but it's all grass.
Right.
So, but if it was graded, it would have been a completely different, and it could have taken just one grader going across and coming back. And that's what the argument about today is, just like for the past 2 hours now.
Yeah.
Well, what would be our suggestion or our request? Do you want to, we have options. We can vote yes, we can vote no, we can ask for a.
Question is, what do we do?
Would we ask for a continuance so that some of this background information
Could be resolved?
Resolved.
It's up to you. Would you like that? Maybe we can ask for a continuance to get it resolved, because it's a.
Could we ask Mr. Ward if he has a compromise of some sort? That maybe we can vote for it with a caveat?
I don't know about a caveat.
Or however, with conditions.
With the conditions.
With the conditions. Mm-hmm.
Would y'all prefer to hear Mr. Ward, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, some thoughts. We would accept a continuance if that results in something happening, number one. I appreciate Sid's comments. And if we were creating something, I think it would be fair for the owner to do the soil test and come up with the reports and see what's there. And I think you're probably correct, Sid. 2 passes with a motor grader and make a real nice picture. But it really bothers me to think that a man's rights can be taken away through the actions or the lack of action by the city to maintain something they'd already maintained.
Mr. Ward, I would encourage you to make your offer that you've made and do not pick a fight.
Yeah, that's not under our control what happened in the past. Let's think about what we can do in the future.
That's correct.
So you say, speaking for them, that you would be accessible for a continuance.
Yeah, we can't afford to buy a pig in a poke either. Something we can fix for $500, we'd probably do it. If it's $10,000, we don't think it's fair.
That's why we would think a continuance would be good, to study that and know that figure first.
That's fine.
Very good, sir. Thank you very much. All right, so do I have a motion?
Motion to continue the item, or?
And you want to put a date specific on that, please, sir?
Okay.
What is our next?
What do you want?
What is our
I'll
meeting?
make a motion to,
Want me to make a motion?
make
I
a
don't know the
motion to
date.
continue.
He's
continue
making a
this
motion to
item for next-
continue to a certain date. Let's see what that date is. That would that
Yeah.
be the 26th, Ms. Kim?
And can you please
Yes.
include both variances 6 and 4 in your motion for continuance?
Both?
Sid, that's
They're
you.
both related to this property.
Okay, they're both
Mr.
related.
Chairman?
Yes, ma'am.
It would be September 26th.
Very good.
Do you want me to
All right.
rephrase your motion?
Would
No,
you-
what would you like me to say?
Just both variances and then September 26th.
Okay, so the first, I make a motion to continue both variances, 4 and 6, till a future time. What is the time?
The 26th
The 26th of
September.
September.
we've had a motion and is there a second?
Second.
Several. All right. All right. So it's understanding that staff and the applicant will work about trying to kind of coordinate with this information we want, correct? Or
So your direction is for the applicant to work with staff on a compromise, or?
no, just to come up with the questions about expense or liability, I guess you might say, of taking this project on.
So what you're looking for is the cost of improvement for the applicant to understand, for you to understand, of a substandard road, basically, a road not to city standards, and what that minimum would be.
Yes, to make it, I would like to see that there's a request for a lost street sign. I would like to see that it looks like a road, a dirt road, any road. That doesn't look like a road.
I can tell you the Public Works Director will not support anything less than what the city standards say.
Okay.
So, but.
I don't think we're asking for a compromise or even a new suggestion from staff. I think this is more of an opportunity for the applicant to make it look like a duck and quack like a duck. And if that has guidance that the city can offer about grading or about maintenance, then I encourage the applicant to consult with the city despite what its recommendation would be.
Okay. Okay, we could certainly bring that information back, that motion back to the Public Works Director and to the city. At this point, you're looking for information to bring back to the continuance.
That's correct.
Okay.
Would that be correct, sir?
Yeah, I think the applicant is gonna bring some information from his own too, so.
That's correct, all right.
And the applicant should talk to the city about it.
Of course, yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure everybody's on the same page.
And maybe we can have somebody from the Public Works Department next time.
I can certainly invite them, yes.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Okay, we've had a motion and we've had a second. May we have a roll call, please?
Member Smith Rodriguez?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Shahayam?
Yes.
Alternate Member Kilpatrick?
Yes.
Alternate Member Ortiz?
Yes.
Chairman Taylor?
Yes. Okay, so we have now continued this till our next meeting to allow everyone to, as we said, get their ducks back in a row. So, all right, thank you for being here, and we'll continue on with the next, whatever that is. Let me back up here.
Petitions and requests.
Yeah, I got to get to that page. What is it? 4? Think. 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever. Okay. So at this time, we're opening it to the public for petitions and requests from the public. Does anyone else wish to address on any other matters? Seeing none, do we have any reports?
No, sir.
Staff has nothing to report.
Just the next meeting on the 26th.
The next meeting will be on the 26th. That's correct. Council?
That the 5 of you can be here on 9/26.
Yes, that will be very important for the 5 of us because we're the ones that set up for the continuance on this particular matter. We still have one vacancy for a full-time member with certain specifications that the counselor has read many times. So otherwise, we're up to 6. So woo, we're doing good. We've been lower. I have nothing personal to report. Anybody have anything themselves?
No, thank you.
If that's the case, then we will call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.